great pharaoh. The gift of Troy is a fabulous fabric from the land of the five rivers.
Years ago, when we came to Los Angeles, I really believed that the greatness of the Raiders would be in its future.
What's good? We back. We are back, man, for another edition of the 50 and 50 show, man. This is a bonus edition of the show, man. We are not going live at our usual Monday spot, but we are going to be going live on at our usual Monday spot. It's not Monday yet, so but we still want to talk about what's going on with the Raiders, the team. It's that time of the week. It's near the end of the week. There's some things that happened, some things that haven't happened. We want to get into it, man. So let's not waste any time, man. But Severe, man, what's going on with you, man? How you been?
Man, nothing. Man, I've been good, man. Been good. Just a little surprise show, for everybody that been rocking with us this long, man. Give you guys a little bit of extra, for the weekend. Some extra, something to tide you over until that Monday.
And as usual, man, make sure don't forget to clock in and hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot to talk about. Hey, Raiders football is 365 days out of the year, man. It never stops. And let's get into it, man. So the Raiders have been losing out on some free agents, but they've also had some signings here and there. And one of the signings that they had was Palomau, that safety linebacker, was pretty much signed to a deal. I know to begin free agency, before free agency starts, I believe teams have that ability to tender certain players. Because I believe Palomau was a restricted free agent, and They pretty much were able to agree to terms to a contract. How do you feel about the move, man? He's a safety, kind of a depth safety, and I guess you could say maybe even a linebacker as in the defense at times, depending on the defensive alignment. What do you feel? How do you feel about Palomar as a player for this team?
Yeah, man, I like Palomar. Going into last year, I had high hopes for Palomar. I was kind of hoping he would be a guy that saw the field a little bit more than he actually did. But he's progressing. I like the progression. He's a guy. He's undrafted, so it's not like we spent any draft capital on him. He's a guy that came in the league as an undrafted free agent. He's been able to make a mark on his team. Had a pick last year. I think he's only going to continue to get better. As he spends more time in this defense under the tutelage of Patrick Graham, as well as our new secondary coaches. I'm excited to kind of see, or I'm anxious to see, kind of if he's able to take that next step and become a truly impactful player, down in and down out. He's a guy that offers you some depth at safety, but as you mentioned, he's kind of a hybrid linebacker as well. Can kind of play that big nickel role where he's not really a linebacker, but he's not really a safety. But it's like having a guy that does both on the field. So, I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah. I mean, he's a depth piece. He's just one of those players I think the coaching staff likes. They like his probably versatility, and they're able to bring him back. I mean, the Raiders haven't really made any big moves since the first day of free agency. To be honest, I mean, we did sign the running back. We talked about that on our last live or last show episode, and I think it was Alexander Madison. We were able to sign him. But outside of that, it's been like, signing Harrison Bryant. We all know how big a signing that is.
Bro,
but,
come on now. Put some respect on that man's name.
We got to put some respect on Harrison Bryant, man. He quality depth tight end, man. He's going to be playing some quality snaps especially as a blocker. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. Blocker, special teamer, all that stuff.
Man, it's all important, man. It's all important, especially the NFL, man. It stands for not for long, to be honest with you. Like, players get injured left and right, so you need those types of depth signing. That being said, like I said, there hasn't really been big signings outside of the Christian Wilkins and the backup quarterback in Gardner Minshew or bridge quarterback starter. We don't know at this point. But the Raiders have kind of let a lot of players kind of test free agency and go to other teams. Yeah. And a player that was not brought back was backup corner Tyler Hall. And we also talked about this before as well. Meek Robertson going to the Detroit Lions. We lost out on him. And Tyler Hall, I kind of liked him.
Yeah.
Ever since he's came to the Raiders, he was a guy that stepped up when his number was called. And I always thought that Tyler Hall, if it wasn't for Meek, he would probably get more snaps on the football field.
Yeah,
but he was able to sign with the Eagles, so the Raiders let another corner go to another team. How do you feel about losing out on Tyler Hall?
Yeah, man, I don't want to say it's a big loss because not like he made a lot of contributions, but I think that's another depth piece that we're losing, especially after losing a Meek, who I felt would have been a good depth piece. Once you get a solid corner to go across from Jack Jones, then you also lose Tyler Hall as well. He's a guy that whenever he did get opportunities, he seemed to play well. I know when we signed Duke Shelley last year, a lot of people were really high on Duke Shelley. And if I recall correctly, I believe Tyler Hall actually. I mean, I know Duke Shelley got cut, but I believe Tyler Hall had actually beat him out to a roster spot. So it's a situation where we seem to be losing players at a much faster rate than we're retaining or acquiring players. And I don't recall who we have on our practice squad as a corner. I believe Sam Webb was still there after he took a hiatus with another team, I believe with the Panthers, and he came back. But other than that, there's not really a lot of depth on this team at corner. We have Jack Jones, we have Jacorian Bennett, and Nate Hobbs, and behind them, man, it is really, it's really just a land of misfit toys, man. So maybe that's the direction we go later on in free agency. Maybe we make a trade. Maybe we address that during the draft. But corner right now is looking very thin.
Yeah. Yeah, man, and it makes you think, man. The other day, AP over there on the sideline at Alabama's pro day talking to Terrion Arnold. He seems like an AP type of guy. You know what I mean? Like alpha dude on the football field, physical corner. The personalities you can see a personality like an Arnold at corner can mesh well with AP. But that being said, AP's a voice in the room. He's not going to be the final decision maker when picking that corner spot. So I know it. Severe, don't worry. Keon Mitchell is probably going to be the number one guy on your board. Don't you know what I mean? Hopefully, Raiders will make the best decision. It's not going to be any reactionary decisions because from years past, it felt like the coaches had a lot of say or a lot of pull compared to the GM. I think this year, if not at the very least, it's equal. If not, Telesco probably has the final say on decisions, just because I think Mark liked the experience that a Telesco brings, and I think he trusts him a little bit more to make decisions on this team. I felt like Mark, even though he says that he hired a guy like Dave Ziegler to make the final decisions, and obviously McDaniels being the head coach, but it felt like Ziegler was only there because of McDaniels. It always felt like he would throw shots at him. As like I think we talked about this before. Like at the end of the season, he had an interview with Vic Tafer, and he threw a shot at Ziegler and was like, hey, Ziegler has a lot to learn, and it's that was kind of a weird comment to make when the guy's still employed for you. Like, you know what I mean? Why would you even give that to a beat writer? Why would you even put that out there? But he didn't say anything bad about McDaniels.
Yeah.
So you could tell who Mark Davis kind of favored there. He never really said anything bad about McDaniels, John Gruden, but Mike Mayock and Ziegler, on the other hand, they didn't really get the favoritism that the head coaches got.
Yeah, man, it's like Mark Davis. Mark Davis couldn't wait to get Ziegler up out of there. He's like, now, not only am I firing Josh McDaniels, brother, you got to pack your bags too. Like, you get up out of here too. So it's a situation where it's like, it was speculated that Ziegler wasn't his first choice, and the only reason that Ziegler got the job is because, Mark Davis wanted Josh McDaniels that badly, which in hindsight, man, that's just a terrible move. Anytime you have that head coach and GM dynamic, you want input from the head coach, but that input should be basically limited to, hey, you know what? These are the kind of players I want. I want players with these attributes. I want players that fit into this scheme, right? Unless you absolutely know a guy, like perfect example with Antonio Pierce and Jack Jones, like he knows that guy. So unless you know a guy, you shouldn't be handpicking players. That should be the job of the GM, and that way those duties are separated. It's hard enough to be a head coach in NFL, but to be the head coach and be the GM at the same time, it never works. It worked for not a short period of time, but it worked in New England. And that's because, they had the greatest coach of all time and they had the greatest quarterback of all time. But just about every other scenario, it has not worked.
That being said, let's pivot. Let's pivot to the stuff that we, a lot of people want to talk about, especially Raider Nation, and we always notice stuff like this. Raider hate. And one of the Raider hates this week that we talked about early in the week was Christian Wilkins. The D tackle Christian Wilkins hate continues. So Brad Gagnon from the Bleacher Report, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Bleacher Report, pretty much called Christian Wilkins to the Raiders a very pricey move, one of the worst contracts to give, especially to a player that's never been a Pro Bowler at his position, never been a All-Pro. Then he, obviously he brought up PFF and how he's never been at the top of the statistics in certain PFF stats. He just called the move a really bad move, just because how do you pay someone that much money and they've never really had that much success? Or they had limited success, never had more than 10 sacks. But that being said, what do you think of this hate that's coming from ESPN, Bleacher Report? Like, Man,
It's crazy because if you look at people that actually played the game, they all love the signing. Like Jalen Ramsey will immediately, right? Jalen Ramsey, a guy who played last year with Christian Wilkins in Miami, was talking about how lethal he felt the combination of Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby would be. Like people who really study the game, they like the move. I think sometimes the talking heads, they get too caught up in he's getting this much money. Okay, well, that's how free agency works, right? Sometimes you have to overpay to get the guys that you want, but it's not about what that contract is. It's about what they do on the field. And I just think that he's never really played with a truly elite running mate on defense. Jalen Phillips was kind of turning into that, but when you put a guy like Max Crosby on the field, who's an alpha as well, and can take some attention away from him, I think you pay guys. Sometimes you pay them for what they have done, but part of that contract is you're paying them for what you project them to do. And I think the projection of what Christian Wilkins can do on the defensive line with Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz, I think is, I don't think it's going out on a limb to say he's, barring injury, he's going to get double-digit sacks this year.
Yeah, man. I look at the end of the day, and this critique on the move is kind of short-sighted. It's not. They're not. There's context, and that's why you're here watching us talk about the Raiders, because we know the team and we know the team. We watch the team just like you guys pay attention to the team and what's going on, and we can all see that getting a pass rush impact D tackle was going to be the right move for this defense. This defense can go to another notch because it's going to open up, like you said, Max Crosby, Kuntz, even a second-year player in Wilson, Tyree Wilson. He's going to have more one-on-one opportunities. We have a D tackle. A D tackle automatically is going to command more double teams, and it's going to open up especially for the outside pass rushers. They're going to be able to go one-on-one against the tackles, and that alone makes the move really good, in my opinion. It's a home run, in my opinion. And guys like this talking about, well, this is one of the worst contracts. How do you call it the worst contracts when you haven't even seen how it's going to work out for the Raiders? Like, right. I could understand like certain contracts you can say that, but with a guy like Christian Wilkins and the position that he's played, he's been productive. Has he been a Pro Bowler? No. Has he been all pro? But think about the players in front of him that have gotten the nod. You know what I mean? You got the Aaron Donalds. You got there's other, and some of these players that you could probably mention are like guys that of course are going to get the nod over him. You know what I mean? Yeah. The Chris Jones, the Aaron Donalds, especially all pro, because he mentioned all pro as a reason why, wow, you can't give a guy that big of a contract. He's never been all pro. But look, let's be honest. Free agency is all about getting overpaid. Every player in free agency is going to get overpaid because they're always going to be setting the market. It doesn't at the end of the day, and in my opinion, I think the Raiders are lucky to get a guy like Christian Wilkins to be available, because he wasn't supposed to be available if it wasn't for, the Dolphins having like their cap issues. But
fact.
We all know what it is, man. People like hating on the Raiders. I don't want to always point to that, but let's keep it real. They're going to hate on the Raiders because it's easy. It's easy to point at the Raiders and be like, oh, look, they just handed out a big contract. That was a terrible contract. Why did they hand it to Christian Wilkins? There's always going to be that negative talk. But, we're telling you right now, like, great move, home run. Don't listen to this outside noise. Christian Wilkins, definitely, to me, one of the best signings in free agency, just because of the fit and the impact that he's going to have, because we could see it. We can see it from afar. Like, the fact is, how long has it been since we had a pass rush D tackle? It's been way too long. Way too long.
Long time, man. Warren Sapp, if you consider Tommy Kelly that. Well, what's crazy is that of all the free agency, right, how this guy says is one of the worst moves, Rich Eisen, who's been around the NFL a long time, one of the smartest guys in the business, I think he had it as his third best signing of this free agency period. So, it's different strokes for different folks. But as you said, the Raiders getting hated on is a story as old as time, man, and it shall continue until we prove that we can win consistently year in and year out. We're going to be the punching bag of the rest of the league, and that's fine because it's always been us against the world anyway.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna act like that contract was nothing. I mean, it is a big time contract. And handing out a contract is always going to be a risk. There's always going to be risk, whether it's in the draft, whether it's in free agency, it's always going to be a risk. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to make a move. And for the Raiders, they're trying to win now. So you understand the move makes sense. The move makes sense. And to be honest with you, Christian Wilkins is 29 years old, so it's not like you can argue like, is he going to see like the entirety of that contract? We all know the how the NFL works. They're like you'll see a 5-year deal, but it's really a 2-year deal. It's really a 3-year deal. So, hey, look, I think what it is. I think probably his editor was like, hey, we can't be positive here. We got to find some we got to make some clickbait articles or a clickbait point that you're trying to make about free agency, and I think that was one of them, in my opinion. But, hey, agree to disagree. But another piece of information, another newsworthy moment this week, we found out that Devonte Adams is going to be on a Netflix documentary. He's going to be on a Netflix documentary. They haven't announced the date of when it's going to air. It's pretty much part of the series. The same people that made the quarterback series with Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Mariota, they pretty much are making a receivers documentary. And it's going to be, I believe, Devonte Adams, Justin Jefferson, and I forgot who the other receiver. I don't know if you can remember, but
Debo
Samuels.
Debo, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and George Kittle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have George Kittle in there. Okay. Yeah. So Devonte Adams is going to be a part of that documentary. What makes it kind of interesting is when it was set, the timing of when it was set. It was from the 2023 season. So the cameras were following Devonte Adams throughout the season, and we all know what happened during the season. My guy McDaniels. There's a guy named McDaniels got fired. So.
Yes.
Look,
yes.
There might be some there might be some things that might have happened in that documentary that was said during that time. So we'll hopefully we'll be able to get a sneak preview of that soon. But it's gonna be interesting. I think everybody's gonna be paying attention to what happens when that documentary gets released.
Now, facts, man. I'm surprised that Josh McDaniels let that go down. Like, that is not something that Bill Belichick would have allowed, bro. Like, letting the camera crew go in there and actually like film that kind of stuff. Like, no way in the world Bill Belichick lets that happen. So that shows you the kind of power and leeway that they were giving a guy like Devonte Adams, because, like I said, man, the Patriots way, that's not something you do, man. So it's gonna be interesting to see exactly what they captured, if they caught the infamous vent meeting that went on, or if they caught the moment where AP said something about the Patriots and Josh McDaniels snapped. It's like, you don't talk about the Patriots like that. Like, these moments that we heard about before, or we heard about throughout the season, it'd be interesting to see if they were able to catch any of those moments, because I think that kind of stuff right there, that's must see TV. That is must see TV.
For sure, because we seen how frustrated Devonte Adams was during the season. So, there was moments where Devonte Adams left the locker room and didn't want to talk to anybody. But did he talk to the cameras from the Netflix crew? Did he say something that he probably was real calculative and like, you know what, I could say something to them because eventually when this gets released, these guys are not going to be here. I know they're going to get fired. I'm sure he probably. I'm pretty sure that he probably brought that, thought about it. Who knows? Devonte Adams sometimes has a lot to say. I remember there was a big interview that he had that everyone was talking during the offseason where he pretty much called out the Raiders for not making the right moves where he felt like
Yeah.
that he agreed with. This is before the season, so we know that he's highly opinionated and he has a lot to say. But yeah, we'll see how that goes, man. So hopefully this will come out soon. I think it might come out last year. The quarterback one, I think, did it come out during the season or right before the season? I'm trying to think.
I think it's right before the season. I mean, most likely, I would assume it's going to come out sometime between after the draft, but before training camp. That's kind of like the NFL dead space where it's not a lot going on. So, free agency is essentially over. The draft is over, but, OTAs and training camp isn't here. So, people are looking for some content. So that'd be something they can go to easily for content. So I think that's if the NFL is smart, it'd be around that time.
Okay. Moving along. Next thing that this week that happened, or nothing really happened. It was Daniel Jeremiah. He's the Mike Mayock of today's. He's that quarterback. He's not the quarterback, but the draft expert, the guy that everybody's kind of listening to. He's the NFL Network's Todd McShay and who's the other guy that's been there for years? Mel Kiper. So when their mock drafts come out, everybody's kind of like paying attention because they're pretty much talking to the league. They're trying to get an idea of who's going to be drafted. We all know that. I think Daniel Jeremiah's background. He's been a scout before. He's probably talked to a lot of people, league officials from different teams. So people pay attention to his mock drafts. And this week it came out, and he pretty much mocked Michael Penix to the Raiders at number 13. Yes. Number 13. Now, throughout this whole process, smoke season, Michael Penix has been a guy that people kind of were like, he's probably going to be dropping. His value, his stock is kind of dropping a little bit due to his injuries and, a lot of different reasons. But Michael Penix was that guy that was dropping, and some people had him. People mocked him early on in the second round. Yeah. But now he's moved up to 13. How do you feel about the spot at 13?
So we kind of talked about this before, and I have Michael Penix as my second quarterback. I got Jayden Daniels 1. I got Michael Penix 2. Initially, I would not have been happy with drafting Michael Penix at 13. I would not have been happy. But the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. What's interesting is that I don't want to say this is the same scenario, but it's kind of similar set of circumstances last year, right? Where Daniel Jeremiah has a little bit of his claim to fame is last year he had the Texans drafting C.J. Stroud and also trading back up to number 3 to take Will Anderson in one of his last mock drafts. And people kind of like, bro, you outside of your mind. No in the world that happens. Lo and behold, that's what they did. Mm-hmm. And what the organization was, or what people were saying when they talk about that particular move is that they actually had Will Anderson higher, but they knew that if they drafted Will Anderson first and tried to make a trade up for C.J. Stroud, it was no way it was going to happen. So I think this might be a similar situation here where, corner might be a bigger need. Offensive tackle might be a bigger need. Offensive guard might be a bigger need. But if you want your quarterback, you're going to have to draft him a little bit earlier, and then maybe you can trade back into the back end of the first round and get one of those other guys. You can get, a offensive tackle later on, get a corner a little bit later on, get a guard in the middle rounds. But if you flip that and you draft one of those guys and the team is dead set on drafting Michael Penix at quarterback, you likely aren't going to be able to pull off that same 2-for-1.
Yeah. It's kind of tricky because the value of the quarterback is so high.
Exactly.
That's that position where people kind of reach. You know what I mean? Like they might not necessarily be the best player in the draft, but since the value of the quarterback is so high, they might get picked over the best player in the draft. Like last year, even though he kind of dropped a little bit, he dropped Jalen Carter was arguably the best player in the draft. But look how many quarterbacks got taken ahead of him. But that being said, like, hey, C.J. Stroud, man, he might be that guy. But Jalen Carter ain't no slouch. He had a good rookie season as well. But what I'm trying to say is that quarterback value is so high that it might supersede taking the best player in the draft. I mean, a better player at a different position, like maybe offensive tackle, maybe corner, which we didn't touch on. The Raiders have yet to sign an O-line and corner in the free agency. And we've let Illuminor sign to another team. We've let Amik Robinson and Tyler Hall sign to another team. But we haven't really addressed those positions. And it just looks like, man, like the Raiders might be gearing up for the draft to attack those positions, because I don't see how you can wait this long in free agency unless you might think that you're going to attack the draft to get those positions. But that's a whole different conversation, man. We'll save that. But as far as Penix, I'm not mad at it. I was hoping, this is my hope, that he would be there in a second, and then we draft maybe a tackle at number 13. But it just looking like the Raiders are not going to wait for that, man. I don't think he's going to last. I think you got to think that if Seattle is on the clock, I know they traded for Sam Howell, but if Seattle is on the clock, his former offensive coordinator in college is the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. Yes. He's familiar with the area because he played for the Washington Huskies. It's like a perfect fit right there. You know what I mean? It makes so much sense. So then, if you're the Raiders, do you risk, Michael Penix getting picked? You know what I mean? Like, you got to be confident that you could trade up to get into the first round. And is it worth it? Is it worth picking up another player and then trying to trade up to go into the first round and getting giving up what? How many? I think Tashawn Reed the other day, he had like a mock draft with other beat writers from other teams. And one of the things that he did was he picked, I think, an offensive tackle at number 13, and he traded into the first round to grab Penix, but he gave up, damn near the whole draft. You know what I mean? Like, so is it going to be worth it?
And that's why I was saying that price tag isn't as heavy if you're drafting a non-quarterback. If there's a quarterback on the board and a team knows essentially you're drafting up to draft or moving up to draft a quarterback, they're gonna make you pay that high ticket. They're gonna try to extract as much out of you as they can because they know they can at that point. Even if you do it backwards, you may not get the maximized value on that particular pick. But if you're trading back into the first round for whatever other player you have identified, then you'll get more value on that back end, on that trade up. And then you have two players in the same class that you covet. And I think that's a very valuable thing.
And another thing, too, one of my concerns is like, all right, obviously I've seen so many draft picks by the Raiders, so many risks that they take in, so many busts. We all know the draft is not a guarantee no matter who you pick at the draft, but it's all about probability. And like, man, it just feels like when the Raiders take a risk, it tends to bite them. Like that, it tends to they tend to like have to learn the hard way. And one of the things that I'm concerned about with Penix is the fact that like, can he be a guy that can be a second reaction player? Because in today's NFL, you gotta have that ability to create. You gotta have that ability to like, if it's not there, if the guy's not open, you got to figure out a way to buy some time, use your legs. Is Penix that guy? Because his skill set is more of a kind of like a pocket passer. And here's some clips. I think this is where, if you want to break them down, and I'm going to put it on the screen real quick. Let's see here. And this is against Texas, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the screen, and we can see a little bit of possibly there might be something there. There might be something
man.
there.
I kind of spoke about it previously. Bruce Feldman talked about it. Penix is much more athletic than he's given credit for. And in this clip, you can kind of see he's willing to stare in the barrel, know he's going to take a big hit, deliver an accurate throw to the outside shoulder. And Texas, they have 2 defensive tackles that are going to be fairly high draft picks. You know, a guy in Byron Murphy that some people want us to take at 13 or wanted us to take at 13 before we acquired Christian Wilkins, and then they have T'Vondre Sweat, who was a guy that could go in the first, will probably be no later than the second round pick as well. So he's doing this in this game against 2 of the best defensive tackle prospects in the class. You see right there, a lot of people say, you know, what will he do when he's under pressure? In that particular moment, he stood down a barrel and he delivered an accurate throw, knowing he's going to take a big hit. So I think that's big.
So that first clip that I was playing while Severe was talking, it was a play where he knew he was going to get he knew he was going to get hit, and he was able to make a big time throw on the sideline. And then this right here, you could see a little bit of okay, you know what I mean? And Texas, you know, he has this on film. You know what I mean? Texas wasn't no slouch. They got a couple of guys or a few guys on that D line that are going to get taken in the first few rounds. So,
yes.
Including a guy that's been mocked, Byron Murphy, I believe, has been mocked at 13 to the Raiders. Obviously, that might change with the Christian Wilkins signing. I don't know if they want to take a deep tackle that high with other. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. You don't want to take a deep tackle that high when you have other pressing needs, and there's other players at that position that you can get like corner. But look, you see him making a guy miss and being accurate. Finds his guy open up in the middle. Boom. You love to see it, man. Hey, man, if he's that guy, if he can do this on the next level, if you know, and he can stay healthy, because he has a good arm.
Yeah.
He has a big arm.
A big arm. Probably the best passer in his class. And one thing I want to say is how finicky the NFL fans are and the NFL media is. Just think back to what people were saying about Michael Penix after that Texas game. They were worried, like, man, is Penix going to last outside the top 10? So just think about this for a second, right? The kind of the game that shot C.J. Stroud up draft boards was that Georgia game. And it's a game that Ohio State, the guy missed a kick, and they subsequently lost the game. But the lasting impression that we had of C.J. Stroud was of him going up against the Georgia Bulldogs and having a great game. So imagine if Michael Penix did exactly what he did against Texas, but he lost the game. What will people be saying? If you just take out that national championship performance, which is what kind of dropped his stock, and the last time you saw him play was against Texas, he'd be a no doubt first round pick. No doubt top 15 pick. That's what everybody was saying after that game. But since he went out there and he had a bad performance against a team that he was overmatched against, they dropped his stock. So I think it you know, sometimes the media and fans, we're too easily swayed, and people always remember the very last thing they see, and the last thing that they saw was Michael Penix not having a great game against the Michigan Wolverines, and then they remember J.J. McCarthy winning, but you know, what did J.J. McCarthy do in that game?
See, and the thing is too, it's not just the national championship game. It's not just that. I think the biggest thing with him is the injuries. I think it does raise your eyebrow that the fact that he was injured for like season-ending injuries 4 years in college. That's a lot. That's a lot.
He hasn't been hurt
that's
since.
A lot to happen at a very young age. You know what I mean? Like at the most important position in the football field, and he's not a big guy. You know, I know he's 6'2", but he's not a big guy. Like, so, you know, if he takes some shots from some NFL D tackles, NFL D ends, and they're landing on him and they're hitting him, stuff like that is going to add up. So teams are going to be a little bit more worried to draft a guy like that early in the first round. But it's going to be tough, man. I hope the Raiders find a way to trade up, man. I trade up and get their guy. That's what I'm hoping. I don't want them to force a pick, man. I don't want them to force if they're not fully bought in and in love with Michael Penix, don't get him at all. Do not get him at 13. Do not get him at 13. Don't force that pick. Do not force that pick. Get that top player, get the Terrion Arnold, get the Keon Mitchell, get the whoever the top O-line prospect is on the board. Get those players instead of a guy like Penix. If you feel like he is the backup option, and you're kind of like, you're not 100% fully bought in. Like, it's okay. We can live to fight another day. I'm just being honest. I'm keeping it real, bro. I'm keeping it real. I don't want him to force a pick. I don't want him to force a pick, man.
I feel you.
I've seen too many. I've seen too many busts, man. I've seen too many Cleveland Farrells. I've seen too many Damon Arnett's. I've seen too many Alex Leatherwoods. I've seen too many Jamarcus Russells. I can keep going, man. I can keep going. Different areas, different times, same results. Like, do not force that pick. Get a guy that you're 100% fully bought in. Hopefully, Telesco, with his experience in the first round, drafting the first round, he brings that to the Raiders, and they get a good guy in the first round. And I think it. To me, I think the Raiders are leaning toward getting a corner or O-line, and that's what I was alluding to earlier. The fact that we haven't signed an O-line or a corner yet, it's kind of like, all right, you can see their plan really is was definitely to attack the D-line position, because that was a priority. And then the backup QB spot was a priority. To give them, so you can see how that kind of gives them flexibility in the draft. But O-line and corner is ignored. Man, I think they're kind of like setting themselves up to draft one of those two positions. It's either going to be O-line or corner at number 13, unless something crazy happens.
But it's no way in the world I can see the Raiders go into the season with, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, and some like mid-round quarterback. I just don't. Or some last-minute free agent that they sign. I just can't see that happening. Maybe Rattler. I know a lot of people like Jordan Travis. Maybe him later in the round, but I just can't see them going into the season without getting a more established guy at that position. I think in the quarterback competition between Penix, Aiden O'Connell, and Gardner Minshew, I think Michael Penix wipes the floor with both of them. Yeah, I think he beats the mustaches off both of them in the quarterback competition, bro. So I think it's not even a question.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. You said Daniel Jeremiah, who like we said, mocked Penix to go to the Raiders recently. He predicted the trade up and all that good stuff right before the draft. So as soon as the draft, we'll pay attention to Jeremiah. We'll give him the benefit of doubt this time and see how his mock draft looks right before the draft, and we'll see if there's some truth to it. But for right now, Penix to the Raiders could be a possibility. It could be a possibility. Could be, man. But let's move it along here, man. So, hey, man, Tom Brady is back in the news. Tom Brady is back in the news, and his ownership stake might be over. It's a possibility that it might not happen. A really good possibility. Before, obviously this all started last summer. How Tom Brady was linked to the Raiders, and Mark Davis is linked to Tom Brady. You've seen him at games. You're seeing him talking, and Mark Davis has the biggest smile on his face. Call him the greatest quarterback of all time in McDaniel's Ziegler press conference. Yeah. It was linked early on that he was going to buy the team, a portion of the team. It had to be voted on, obviously. And when that time came, I think it came out that the league wasn't comfortable with the deal.
Yes.
I think Mark Davis pretty much gave Tom Brady a huge discount that the league didn't agree with. And Tom Brady and Mark Davis had to get back to the drawing board. I'm sure Tom Brady was able to find that money. But I think there's going to be an owners meeting. If not, I think it's already happened, or I'm not sure if it's already happened or it's up. I believe
it's coming up. I think it's this upcoming weekend. Like the 25th to the 27th or something like that.
Right. And I guess they're pretty much reporting, according to reports, the owners are not going to be voting on the Tom Brady ownership stake.
Yeah.
And what's coming out is what the news is that the report was saying that the biggest issue that's happening now, it's not money now. At first I thought maybe possibly it was money, but come to find out the owners are not comfortable with Tom Brady being an owner of a team and also being an analyst for a network like Fox, because we all know that the Fox analysts, they have a lot of access to each team depending on what game they're going to be commentating. So they're going to, a guy like Tom Brady is going to be talking to coaches, and they're going to be talking about game plans, and they're going to be going into the building, and they're going to be watching the practices. The owners don't really feel comfortable with that, especially a guy who signed a 10-year, $375 million contract with Fox, who's set to basically make his debut as a commentator next year. They're not comfortable with that move, especially because he's going to be part owner of the Raiders. You can see a competitive guy like Tom Brady is going to be like, hey, look, he's been. We all know Tom Brady's been a part of his fair share of scandals and spy gates and deflate gates. So he's not going to be too ashamed to be like, hey, Mark, hey, Telesco, hey, AP, the Chiefs like to run this play on third down and short. This is their go-to play. This is the trick play. Hey, I'm good. Hey, if Tom Brady can tell me or tell AP and the defensive coaching staff all the trick plays in Andrew Reid's playbook, oh man.
Tom Brady would do something like that just to keep Patrick Mahomes from catching them in Super Bowls. Like, what? He got how many? Oh, no, we about to dead this right now. But I would say this, right? Tom Brady, it's like Terry Bradshaw is a Steeler, right? I'm sure he would love to see the Steelers succeed. So, I think this is more of they're trying to, if that's truly the reason, right? What they're worried about him stealing other teams' secrets or giving away their game plan or something like that. Like, that's more of a has more to do with the appearance of it than the actuality of it, because most of those guys played for teams before. They have rooting interest on those teams. So I'm sure they would want to win or want those teams to win. So what would prevent Terry Bradshaw from, hey, Mike Tomlin, when you guys play this weekend, you might want to look out for this, or Nate Burleson from doing it for any of the 18 teams he played for when he was in the league, right? Like, what's to stop those guys from doing the same thing? So I just think that we're worried about the ownership stake. It's not like the Raiders are going to be like super more profitable if they win. Like, their value is already growing exponentially. So I don't think a couple wins here and there are going to grow their value even more and make his ownership stake even more valuable, right? Unless they start to put together multiple Super Bowls or something like that. So I just think, man, it is the NFL doing what they always do, and that is them hating on the Raiders and them trying to stop a maneuver that Mark Davis, a chess move that Mark Davis is making. I think you add a guy like Tom Brady to your ownership, he could have that Magic Johnson effect, and we already know how Magic did us with Cliff. Like, if Tom Brady is part of the ownership group, do you think he's letting Cliff Kingsbury get up out of that room without signing a contract? Nah, I don't think that's happening, right? Mm-hmm. And as soon as he left up out of there, Magic Johnson is on the FaceTime. Like, bro, you come on over here, as you said. Oh, you want to pick your own staff? Mm-hmm. Oh, bro, we got you. You want that third year? Come on over. You want some Starbucks? I got you on that too, dog. Yeah. So I just think it's the NFL, man. Once again, hating on the Raiders.
Yeah. I could see that. I could see that too. I can see that too, man. I think you make some valid points. There's other people in the media that could probably have some biases towards certain teams because they played in the NFL. There might be former players, and they might be able to want to. But who knows? But that's pretty much what's coming out right now. That's what's being reported, is the fact that like Tom Brady is going to be an analyst next year for Fox, and he's going to be in the building for each NFL team that he commentates for. And teams are not comfortable with that. So we'll see how it unfolds. But right now, it looks like Tom Brady won't be joining the Raiders ownership anytime soon. So we'll keep an eye on that. And you know what, to be honest with you, it's kind of weird talking about Tom Brady because I'm a Raider fan, and I ain't gonna lie, being a fan of the Raiders, I hate Tom Brady, just because I hated him for just because of the tuck rule. And to be honest with you, who I really hate is the referee that called it. But you know, Tom Brady having that interview after the game, like, oh, it wasn't a fumble. I just hate him even more. Like, how could you even lie like that on the camera with a? But obviously, he's not gonna admit to that. He's not gonna admit
but
to it.
to this day, that ref, I watched the thing with Seawood and with Tom Brady. To this day, that ref still's like, nah, man, that's a fumble. But know what? Another thing is though, is like, you know, that game is kind of what set the Raiders down the path that we're on currently, right? We had a little bit of success after that, but we kind of never recovered. You know, maybe bringing on Tom Brady as a part owner exercises those demons, you know, and we get back to our winning ways. And the NFL is like, we cannot let that happen. We cannot let the Raiders get back to what they used to be. So, I don't know, man. I don't know.
But yeah, man, hey, man, we just wanted to get in here and talk about what happened so far this week. You know, weekly update, you know, bonus show. Usually we go live once a week. Tune in next Monday. We are going to be going live on Monday, and we'll be talking about the latest and greatest when it comes to the Raiders. Any moves that happen now until then. So make sure to tune in and make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit that notification bell. Shall I remind them and tell them? Let's show the people, man. Let's show the people how that looks.
Go ahead, hit them with it. Hit them with it.
Ah, man, it's give them the emoji waterfall right here. Look, let's take a look right here. Look, at the end of the day, if you don't know what the thumbs up button looks like, you can see it on the screen. Man, It's all over, man. Hey, don't worry. Severe is going to be all right. He is going to be okay. I know his thumbs everywhere, but look, that's what it looks like. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe. This is going to be on both our channels, so make sure to hit the like button on both our channels on the videos, and also subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And man, we appreciate everybody coming through and watching, man. This has been a good show. We wanted to get into, like I said, the latest and greatest with the Raiders. It's what, less than a month? We less than a month away?
Less than a month, yeah. About a month away.
About a month. You know, we're reaching out the last month until the draft. I know it's like the draft is later in April, near the end of April. So now until then, man, we're gonna be looking at mock drafts. We're gonna do mock drafts, so be on the lookout for that, man. So we appreciate everybody coming through and watching. Make sure to leave a comment and let us know. Let us know what you think about the thoughts about Penix possibly going to the Raiders, Tom Brady not being an owner anymore, or not being linked to being an owner no more, based off like the moves from the ownership group or the owners in the NFL. Not really voting on Tom Brady becoming an owner. Let us know about that too as well. Like, and that, man, is there anything you want to let the people know?
Nah, man, appreciate you everybody joining us. As you said, make sure y'all get down in the comment sections, and before y'all go home, man, make sure y'all clock out.
Yeah, man, like my man said, man, make sure to clock in, clock out, do all that good stuff, man. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Man, till next time. Peace.
The gift of Troy is a fabulous fabric from the land of the 5 rivers.
Thoughts for the win coming into
believe that the greatness of the Raiders would be in its future.
Just win, baby.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.